been a smoker for 30 years and I can't quit. I'm going to say, okay, Joe, so what's so important about quitting now? And by asking this question, what I'm trying to find out with Joe is what's his motivation. Anybody that wants to overcome something in their life from the standpoint of a hypnotist, they need motivation. If Joe was to respond with something like this, well, I don't know, it just sounds like a good idea. What could you tell from that response? Does Joe sound very excited to quit? Does he have any motivation? Does he have any reason? Not yet. So this could be putting Joe in a position of probably the session won't work because he's really disinterested. If, however, on the other side of that, I asked Joe, so what's so important about quitting now? And Joe says something like this. Well, I just found out that one of my kids are starting to smoke and I don't like it. And I told him to quit and he says, Dad, you have to quit first. This is a great response because now I'm finding out what is Joe's true motivation. What's so important now? And now I have some importance because, as Joe said, one of his children needs to quit and says, Dad, you need to quit first. So I've got some motivation. I've got some leverage at that point. So are we done yet? Have we allowed Joe to paint us the perfect picture? Not yet. Let's find out as much information as Joe as possible. So from here, I've asked Joe, so what are you here for? He says, I can't quit, I'm a smoker. So what's so important now? And he stated that one of his kids are starting smoking. And he asked his child to quit, but his child said, Dad, you need to quit first. Okay, I absorb that information as a hypnotist. I keep that in the back of my mind. Then I might ask, when I'm saying I might ask, there's no set-by-set standard for these questions. All I'm trying to find out is as much details as possible. It's easy to work with more details about the problem and work out what's the best therapy for Joe, what's the best therapy for my client based on the information that I'm gathering. I'm investigating. I'm like Sherlock Holmes at this point, if you will. So Joe's told me that his child has said, you need to quit first. I'm going to say, well, Joe, so what stops you quitting then? Why not just give them up? Joe's going to think about it for a while. And then Joe might respond with, well, Scott, I've tried many times before, but nothing seems to work. So what's the new information we found out now? Well, we found out at some point Joe has tried to quit, but it didn't work for him. What this is telling us is Joe's tried to quit consciously. Maybe he's had the patches. Maybe he's gone cold turkey. Maybe he's tried to put something in front of smoking and put something instead of smoking. And none of that seemed to work. And this is a classical example of why working at a conscious level with your problems cannot resolve an unconscious issue. So I'm going to keep investigating because right now I'm getting curious. What's Joe really trying to tell me? So Joe said, well, I've tried to quit many times, but it's just all too hard. And as a hypnotist, I'm going to put that in my mental bank, if you will. I'm going to keep that for later. I'm going to get more details. So I'm going to ask Joe, well, what's so hard about it? I mean, your child wants you to quit. What's so hard about quitting? And Joe's going to think. And then Joe says something interesting like this. Well, I'm worried that if I quit, I'm going to put on weight. Now let's pause it right there. If you've ever seen a client before, especially for smoking, usually they'll respond with something like this. I'm worried that if I stop smoking, I'm going to put on weight. This is just one example. What this is telling me is Joe has the wrong mindset issue about quitting smoking. So think about this at a conscious level. If I take away the smoking, what mindset issue is Joe left with? Well, if I quit smoking, I'm going to put on weight. This is what we call a conflict. Joe wants to quit, but he's also worried if he does, he's going to get something bad in return. So why would Joe quit then? Because if he quits, he's going to get something in return that's negative. That's the way Joe's thinking. So in order to break this, I need to find out what this mindset issue is. What's this loop that Joe's caught in? If you think about what Joe said before, when he said, I tried to quit, but nothing seemed to work, what that's telling me is the reason it didn't work, because at an unconscious level, the mindset issue is that the unconscious mind of Joe thinks, well, he will put on weight if he quits. So the unconscious mind says something like this. Well, I don't want Joe to put on weight, so I'm not going to quit cigarettes because right now he's not putting on weight from smoking. And that's what the unconscious mind is tied to. That's the conflict. That's the loop it's caught in. My job as a hypnotist is trying to break that loop. I almost have to debate with the unconscious mind at that point to tell it, hey, this is not the case. Who says Joe has to put on weight by quitting smoking? And I need to convince the unconscious mind through trance and through the therapy that I do that there's other ways to do things. So to backtrack into the hypnotic interview, and again, you'll see footage of this coming up very, very soon, is I'm going to talk to Joe again and just find out more details. So let's find out more of what's happening inside Joe's head.